Welcome to the second season of the Compressor Guru, the start of season 2, and I'd like to thank the subscribers, the viewers, and the customers for making season 1 a successful year. I'm going to be honest with you, Val and I, the camera wife, we talked about it, and we were going to make a decision on June 1st whether to do season 2 or not, because we didn't know how this would be going. And there were several reasons. I'm not going to list them, but it was probably February when the camera wife and I decided we're not going to stop at the end of season 1. So I want to thank y'all for season 1, and here we go on season 2. We have another episode up on silencers. We did the episode where we did a silencer for B&D Auto and installed it, and ran a little bit of video before and after it was running. The sad part about that video is the camera I'm talking into right now has an automatic volume control, and it doesn't really show how well these work. And for as well as this works, this is a 1-inch silencer or muffler for any machine that takes a 1-inch pipe thread going into the intake. And for as well as these work, we can build a better one, but you can't buy a better one. So we're going to build one today because we've got some idiosyncrasies that we have to match. First off, this is a 1-inch, and don't screw this on 1 1/4 inches, 1 1/2 inches. You won't get proper airflow going into your machine. So I got a customer, and I'm going to tell you a long story to get to a short story. That's not right, is it? So anyway, they have a 50 horsepower screw in the back of the building. It's running a large tire shop. And, 4 times a year I'd go in and do maintenance and service and take oil samples and keep it running. It's a Quincy. It's a really good machine. It's been there 30 years. We sold it new. We've taken care of it ever since. And the customer, I'm like, you realize the 10 horsepower in the front of the building will keep that shop up? And they says, yeah, but the guys in the tire shop don't like it. There's a truck shop that does the truck tires right here, and then in the front of the building is the mechanic shop, and the 10 horsepower is right beside where the guys change the big truck tires, and they don't like the noise. Well, there was a period of time at the end of last year when they had to shut that big 50 horse machine down, and it turned into, they ran the 10 horse for a month, and their power bill dropped by $500. And by the time they did the math on it, they decided they could run on that 10 horsepower and save themselves $6,000 a year on electric, and another $1,000 or so for my 4 trips in to service and maintain that machine. So by going from a 50 to a 10 horsepower, they saved a lot of money. And when I was talking to the manager, he's like, those guys can put up with the noise for $7,000 a year. Well, I told him about this muffler, and I went to put it on and found out that that particular machine has 1 1/4 inch thread. Now, I don't have this available in 1 1/4 inch. I have another brand available in 1 1/2 inch, and the price goes way up. I have them available in 2-inch also, but we don't have them available in 1 1/4 inch. And if you put 1 1/2 inch on 1 1/4 inch, it will work, but not as well as the properly sized one would. So we didn't sell them this. We're going to sell them labor, some fittings, and a little bit of insulation and a few other things. So I'm going to set this off to the side. Don't forget where I put that, camera wife. Gotta go back in the box. So, what we have here, customer supplied it, not a 5-gallon bucket, but a 6-gallon bucket. And this is actually stuff they use for the off-road equipment that they do service work on. Now, I saved some of the time that we would have had here prepping the bucket. I didn't have an 1.5-inch hole saw, so I had to drill a bunch of holes. And I pre-drilled holes.
Excuse me?
Oh, sorry. I didn't have an 1.5-inch hole saw, so I pre-drilled the 4 holes for the flanges and had to drill a circle of holes both on the lid and on the bottom of the bucket. So, what we're going to do is we're going to bolt a flange to the inside and the outside. I'll tell you what, we'll do this second. We'll do the lid first. So we've got our RTV sealant gasket maker, and we're going to put some around where our flange goes. And these flanges are flanges you can very simply buy at the plumbing store. And these are made in China flanges. Didn't know it when I bought it, but they don't line up just perfectly to the hole. They don't, try to buy American. They don't line up. Well, these two do. One of those is mismade and the holes don't all line up to each other. But anyway, so we put our RTV sealant on here and we're going to put this down and squeeze it in there because we don't want anything sneaking past. It's going to have a vacuum, and we don't want dirt particles sneaking past the filter by being able to slip under here. So we're going to put our 4 bolts in our holes. We're going to turn it over.
Those 4 bolts already had washers on them. Because you were prepping.
There was a lot of prep work today to this because I thought it was boring if I would have been drilling holes for you and you've been going, geez, bud, we know how to drill a hole. And the other thing I did.
Maybe they like to drill holes.
Well, the other thing I did when I bolted these flanges up into place and realized that the fill hole on this bucket I pre-drilled this, and that's when I realized that the fill hole in the bucket, which is centered, which just isn't centered, but the hole for the filter is centered at the top of the bucket, and we didn't fit real well. So I took my heat gun and heated up, or I bolted this up tight, heated up that flange, and basically melted it so it would fit better. So here we go, we're torquing these to the exact torque required for a 1/4-inch bolt. Click, there went that was my internally built-in torque wrench. Click, there we go. That's all 4 of them torqued. Now, we have 2 halves of a 6-inch nipple with threads. And instead of buying 2 short pieces with 1 thread, I got a 6-inch nipple and cut it in half on the bandsaw. Now, just because we're inside of a bucket and using an old bucket, I cleaned the bucket very well. We are making sure that outside elements can't sneak through any cracks. And this isn't holding pressure, but we're going to tighten it up far enough so we don't have to worry it's ever going to come out. Good. Now you may go, what is this device? When we go together for the last time, this fits right down there. And the reason we're putting a nipple in here, if anything ever strange should happen, this can't collapse. This can't get out of place and run the air through the insulation that we're going to be putting in. So that's on there to keep this in place and to keep this from even possibly collapsing. I went to a surplus store near here. I bought just enough to do this. I cut a little wee bit off, and this was under $2. This is called hardware cloth, and I could have used chicken wire, but I was afraid chicken wire might be just a little big and unruly trying to manage. This rolled up nicely. I held it with a couple of zip ties. They're not just good for kidnapping people. There's other uses for them. I know, Dale's going to go, we're going to leave that in? We might. So this is essentially done. Now we put do the same thing to the bottom. So I had to take a little break. The flange that's on the inside in here is one of the flanges that's misdrilled. So we actually just bolted up one bolt through it and ran the drill back through the other 3 holes, and now it's all perfect. Didn't bore you with having to get the holes straight. Yeah. So this is just going to be like the lid, a flange on the outside, a flange on the inside. I feel like a ta-da is in order. Really isn't. But flanges are bolted in place. We're in fast forward because, quite frankly, you didn't want to...
Boring.
Yes, it was boring, Val. I'm sorry. I'm live entertainment for the camera wife. And we're putting the other half of that nipple in on the inside. And if I have room to use this, not really. That's about it. So, this is our final result. There's the flange on the inside with the nipple, and there's the flanges on the outside. We'll show what they're for in a minute. Now, if we put this together like this and put the muffler on this end, screwed this end into the intake on the compressor, it'd probably be louder than when we started. We actually need some insulation to muffle the sound. And we're going to use regular house insulation. So what we're going to do is we're going to take and we're going to wrap it right around. I'm going to take the backing off. We're going to wrap it right around the tube we made.
And you're gonna wrap around enough to fill up your bucket?
If we don't, we'll fluff it a little. And so you got the inside of the bucket.
I did.
See what we did here. We took some insulation and we wrapped it around. And this is going to be the toughest part. You can look right down the tube. You want to come here and shoot that? You can look right down that tube.
Oh, wait, do I zero in here? Oh, wait a minute. Sorry, I got in the wrong place there.
You can look right down this tube
Yeah, that's what I'm,
and see the sleeve that we need to hit in the bottom of the bucket.
yes,
So that's what we're going to do.
okay.
I'm going to set it up and have to finagle it in so that, and that was that. It was that easy. Now the top side is even easier. You might want to stand up to shoot this.
Okay, I'm standing.
Put that in there, pull it over, and push it all down. And there you have a homemade silencer. You should be able to point your camera right through that and see my hand on the other side.
Oh, let's see. Wiggle your hand. Yay! Now, do you know why it would have been louder without the insulation?
I think the noise would have made this like a drum. I think when you hear the compressor, what you hear is the suction side of the compressor through the intake, and that chug 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 that you hear, I can just imagine that chug sounding like a drum hitting an empty barrel. So we have nicely stuffed insulation in here. And now we have no fittings.
Well, the guru is looking around. What he actually made without the insulation in there was he made an amplifier. Because if you have a hollow body and you connect sound to it, it works just like a drum in a marching band. Or if you're on a stage and you stomp your feet on a stage, if it's hollow underneath, it makes it twice as loud. Or if you're in my carport and you close the car door, you're in a huge amplifier and it's loud.
Well, thank you, Val.
You're
The only
welcome.
thing I know about hollow bodies is when I know it's supper time and I'm hungry. So, anyway, so we're going to make this the intake side, and that'll screw in there just like that, and this will go into the intake on the compressor. And then on the other side, we'll just screw the air filter into. And that's the quick, easy way to make I won't call it inexpensive because I had about $45 in fittings. I had the nuts and bolts here. Had to beg for a piece of insulation off a contractor buddy of mine. And I had to pay $2 whole for the hardware cloth at a surplus store. So and the customer supplied the bucket. I think that's appropriate. Anyway, you can do this with a 5-6 gallon bucket, it doesn't matter. And of course, put pipe dope on all these fittings. Guys, if I was to sell an 1.5 inch, I'm going to guess it would be $180, $190. I didn't even price it. This is properly sized for the compressor, and I'm probably going to charge the customer $120 between labor and the fittings and stuff. And of course, that'll be installed too. Leave in your comments. I'm going to paint this black, and I might pinstripe it. I'm thinking gold. You tell me what you think. Black with gold pinstripes. I mean, it's only a bucket, but let's have some fun with it. So there you go. Make sure everything's tight. Use insulation. Use a tube on the inside to make sure that the insulation doesn't end up part of your filter media and end up clogging up eventually. And this is how to make a inexpensive silencer, and this will work better than the factory job. Thank you. This is the end of episode 1, season 2. And we want to thank you. God bless. Have a great day. Hit that like and subscribe button. Leave a comment. The way the algorithm works on YouTube, I don't understand, but I know whether you like it, whether you don't like it, or whatever you do, as long as you have interaction with the buttons on this page, it helps us. Thank you. God bless. Have a great day.
Thank you for watching this episode of The Compressor Guru. Please hit like and subscribe and use the notify bell so you will know when the next new episode is released from The Compressor Guru. God bless you and have a great day.